Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, my name's Martin Hickey. Thanks ever so much for travelling. So some of you I know have travelled a long way, Robbie, all the way from Holland. And congratulations for taking action and being here today. Today's going to be an awesome day, full of absolute killer content. So why are we all here? If any of you are anything like me, I decided about three and a half years ago to leave the corporate life. I was travelling a lot in and out of Europe. I was just beginning to get quite serious with my partner and decided that I wanted to spend more time with her. The economy was changing somewhat. So I had a bit of a falling out with a boss, and he wasn't too happy with what was happening in the economy and decided to take some cutbacks. So I decided to look online. I knew the internet was the way forward. Spent probably 6 to 8 weeks looking at different mentors, looking at different products, opportunities. Came across a guy who, purely by coincidence, I went to school with. Seen him driving around in quite a flashy car and just assumed mummy and daddy helped him, or he'd been working hard, or I certainly didn't know he was online. So I met up with this guy and had a chat, and just to find out a bit more information, I suppose. And here I am today. So I am the very handsome face behind these six-figure mentors. I'm very fortunate and in a trusted position to look after the day-to-day running of the six-figure mentors. So I'm really pleased to meet a lot of new faces today, and a lot of new faces to come over the next little while. So before I waffle on anymore, I'd just like to introduce the founder of the Six-Figure Mentors, my mentor and very good friend, Stuart Ross.
Well, welcome everybody. So first of all, what I want to say is today we're going to be talking about how to build a six-figure online business. Now you'll notice on the text here I've put within 6 months, and I want to explain to you where that 6 figures in 6 months comes from. And I'll go into more detail from my story, but the first thing I want you to understand is that I think you'll all agree that there is a lot of hype, a lot of exaggerations, misleading information on the internet. But my story, which you're going to hear about, really was a story of going from 0 to 6 figures in 6 months and then far beyond. But for me, what's even more important than that, again, something I'll be talking about today, is a couple of, in fact, 3 case studies, just very, very briefly, of students of mine who have done exactly the same. I've had the privilege of helping many, many people to really achieve some fantastic things online. Okay, so I wanted to open up today with just really talking to you about my mission, because I can honestly say to you that from the day that I got started online to where I am today, it's been a bit of a journey, and things really do change. And you'll sort of, in today's introduction, I think you'll take quite a lot of value with what I'm going to be sharing with you. So first of all, I want you to understand that it is absolutely my mission to create six-figure affiliates. I know it's possible because I've done it. I've done it mainly working with people on a one-to-one basis. And what I actually came to realise is really a couple of things. Probably about 18 months ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I really started to consider what my purpose was. I really started to look at my different business models that I was doing online. At one point in my business, I had over 22 different income streams, and they were across various different markets. But I really started to get quite lazy. And what actually happened is that when you're earning automated income, the money's coming in, everything else, it's very, very easy to sometimes forget, what you're trying to achieve on a day-by-day basis. And to give you an idea, I started getting out of bed at like 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning. I'd like go along to the gym. I'd sort of come home, so I'd go out and play golf, see friends, check how much money I was making. It was about 18 months, 2 years into starting online marketing that people started to say, well, how are you doing it? What is it you're doing? And I started to really understand the whole concept behind coaching. And it wasn't until I started doing it, and I really want people to listen to what I'm saying here so you can understand what my next point's going to be about, is I really started to realise that by helping other people, not only was it very rewarding and gave me a lot of purpose, but it was absolutely a win-win situation, because I was creating products, I was creating different ways of making money on the internet. And as I started to coach people, I started to get a lot more leverage in my business. If you can imagine a traditional business, you have maybe 5 staff, 10 staff. The company that I used to work, which I'll talk to you about in the corporate world, we had over 200 staff. you've got a lot of people doing work for you, especially if you're at the top and you've got management, and there's a lot of leverage behind having staff. And what I came to realise in my business, that the leverage was the internet, which, let's be honest, is fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. But when I actually started to give people my knowledge and started to teach people what I was doing, I was able to create affiliates and have people go out there and promote my stuff. The reason I open up with this is you often hear all the time people that are teaching how to make money. It's purpose, I love it, I'm passionate about it, which is very, very true. But I want to make sure that you understand that I'm not standing here just because it's my passion and because it's interesting and everything else. I want you to know it is a win-win situation, and not sort of, beat around the bush as such, and tell you that, every single person in here has the potential to make me a lot of money, and I don't take that lightly. And the stuff I'm going to be giving you, the point that I'm making now, is I will not be holding anything back. There is far more leverage, as you can imagine, by me teaching you everything that I possibly know. So you think this guy is absolutely amazing, I want to go out there, I want to recommend his products, I want to promote his products, I want to be one of his top affiliates. And I absolutely categorically can tell you, this time next year, with what we're coming and what we're working on within our training and our system, we will have many, many six-figure affiliates, and it's an absolute win-win situation. I also want to make sure that I'm not just training people for the sake of selling my products, because for me that's not a good business model. And I want to make sure that as you go through my training, the stuff you're going to be learning today, although you will see and understand and realise how that can be a win-win situation for both of us, I do genuinely want to give you the foundations. As you heard as we went around the room, different people want to grow their existing businesses and expand. One thing I will say while I'm on that topic is that what I often find is, and I started the same way, is that people feel secure in the areas that they feel confident in, the existing businesses they're in, the knowledge that they've got around them. I can tell you, after sort of a couple of years of coaching people, really for a lot of people, they're not actually passionate about what they're doing. They're not actually that passionate about their existing business, or whatever. It's a bit like a job. It's a means to an end. And what I want to do is make sure that you get the foundations that, yeah, you can go out there and be an affiliate and promote and help me build my business. But more importantly, along that journey, as you will today, you get some seriously solid foundations. So when you go to build your own businesses in your own areas of interest and your own areas of passion, that you have the foundational knowledge to do that. And naturally, the reason I want to absolutely blow you away with the information today, you all know I have recurring income sites, I have membership sites, I have high ticket products, I do events like this. If I don't deliver massive, massive value, you're not going to come back. And one of the biggest things that I've learned, it's been a huge lesson for me, is length of customer value, okay, the lifetime customer value. And I want to make sure that you leave the doors today, or the people at home that are watching this video think, do you know what, this guy is sharing some absolute amazing information. So please stay alert. And I also want you to go home and feel confident about building the lifestyle that you want, and the lifestyle by design. Something I'm not going to be really covering today, it's something I do in my 2-day workshops, is I really spend a lot of time on purpose. I really spend a lot of time on focusing on the type of lifestyle you want to build. We're not going to have time to do that today. I promise you I will be covering it in some of our SFM elite training, but it is incredibly important stuff. And one thing I do want is for you to leave those doors and think, do you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm actually going to build the type of lifestyle for me, my wife, my partner, and everything else. And something that I always say, particularly when we were at the last Momentum Day, we had people in tears and everything else, is that, for a lot of people, the motivation isn't themselves. It's usually your wife, your husband, your kids, and it's the people around you. And I get really frustrated when people see this big vision of what the internet can do and how they can go out there, but 2 months, 3 months down the line, they've given up. And often it's because it's the material things that they're chasing or anything else. But if you can really, really find and understand what your drive is, and it will be, I'm telling you now, it won't be the cars and everything else, it will be something much more important than that. That will just keep you going, and we will talk a little bit more about that. So I wanted to, as I said, just share with you briefly some information on my story, because there is lessons from it, and I do want to make sure that you can hopefully feel some inspiration as well. So I came from quite a reasonably well-off family, and I've got 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and they all have done incredibly well at school. I, on the other hand, didn't do so well. I started college. I didn't actually manage to stay on at the school that I was studying at, because they needed 5 A to B GCSE grades, which I didn't achieve. So I had to go on to college. I went on to Henley College, and I started studying sports science. And the reason I picked sports science is because it was the only, one, it was the best grade I got an A in it, in sports studies, and two, it was the only thing that I thought that I was any good at, so it was the only thing that I had any confidence in. And I think a lot of people will agree that when you're like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old and you're growing up, and I don't care how old you are now, it's the same for everybody, you have these dreams and visions and how life is going to be when you're older. But I do genuinely believe, it certainly was my case, throughout school, that confidence, those dreams and those goals were pretty much knocked out of me. And because I didn't do so well at school, a particularly direct comparison to my brothers and sisters and even cousins, we've come from a huge family, I really did go into college feeling so insecure. And even as a kid, I remember this burning feeling that I was going to do really well. As a kid, I thought I was going to be a millionaire. 17, 18 years old, that had all gone. I'd like just literally shriveled up in confidence and really didn't know where I was going to go. But then this is where the corporate world just did massive things for me. So I went to a careers advisor and I said, look, I'm really motivated. I really am prepared to work hard. I've messed up at school. I've dropped out of college. I want to make money. You know, I don't want to just get some dead end job. Anyway, cutting a long story short, the result of it was she said, I think you should go into sales and marketing, some sort of sales and marketing role. Because typically people that go into sales that haven't got, you know, great foundations, GCSEs, qualifications, A levels and everything else can still do very, very well. So up until that point, I hadn't even thought of going into sales. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I came away and I went home, I was speaking to my mum, and I remember her saying, well, why don't you try something like property estate agency, something like that. So literally the following day, 18 years old, went around the local towns, handed in my CV, and I ended up literally within 10 days getting a job as an estate agent, £8,000 a year. And I literally spent my first 3 months photocopying, printing stuff off. Again, cutting a very long story short, I did work really hard, just took to it like a fish to water, progressed very, very quickly up the ranks. And, you know, at 22 years old, I was close to a 6-figure income. At 24 years old, I was a 6-figure income. At 26 years old, I was completely burnt out. And when I say that, it was a really weird feeling, and some people may relate to this, is that I was really enjoying it because it was like I'd finally got my confidence back. I had people that believed in me. My bosses were rewarding me. They were flying me around the world on trips. I was going to like New York. I was going to Miami, all paid for doing well in sales and listing the most houses and everything else. And it was really weird. I had this like thing at 26 where I looked at my life. I'd spent a weekend at a barbecue at my grandparents' house. So like I said, a big family. Had no interest in speaking to my cousins. I was just knackered. I was completely tired. I went home and I remember my girlfriend at the time saying, God, you're a miserable git these days. I remember this just going to bed that night, and I really remember thinking like, actually, I am a miserable git. Growing up, I was like the fun one. I was always messing around with my cousins and everything else. So that was kind of like the first turning point. And has anyone, I'm sure you'll all agree that sometimes when you actually really think about your situation, unfortunately, sometimes you realise how much it actually sucks. And that's what happened for me. It was like, actually, I've been kidding myself. I drive, you know, I drove a nice BMW. I was still living paycheck to paycheck, but I had a nice property. I was doing better than a lot of my friends around me. But when I actually looked at my situation, I had no time for keeping fit. I was like, literally, I remember like times where I'd be running upstairs or need to run somewhere and I'd be out of breath. And this is like 26 years old. And, you know, I just like literally just dropped everything, and I'd like, you know, got myself into this rut. And that's when I first had this sort of idea, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I need to start my own business. And naturally, like most people, what I did was I thought I'm going to have to do something in property. I dropped out of college, I haven't got a great amount of experience other than in the estate agency industry. So I started going online, buying franchise magazines, and I was looking at anything that was property related. But then what I realised, I either needed a fat lump of cash in the bank, particularly if I was going to go down the route of investing or anything like that. Or, you know, I'd be in a situation where the franchises that I was coming across were tens and tens of thousands of pounds. In fact, one of the estate agency franchises that I looked at was like the cheapest one, and it was like 60 grand, and they had like absolutely nothing really to offer. So I kind of wrote that off. And so you can see here I was working 70 hours a week, just to give you an idea. And then what I did is I ended up finding this franchise, and I spent £12,000 on it. And what it was a this is actually a picture of the site. It was a local business advertising website, and it was to cover an area in Reading. Now, this was actually my first awakening, I suppose, or realisation to residual income. And the principle was, what you would do is you'd go out there, typically what the franchise was teaching you to do was cold call businesses and get them to advertise on your website, and you would charge them a monthly subscription for advertising on your site. Now, When I went into this franchise, like I'm sure everyone's done before when they go into an opportunity, I honestly thought, this is it. I'm going to change my life. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to be making loads of money. But most of all, the thing that I was just completely sold on was this residual income concept, because it was like, do the work once, the cold calling, the chasing and everything else, get them to sign up. It's a great looking website. You know, there's thousands of businesses in the Reading area. This can't be that difficult. Well, what happened is within literally the first few weeks, I realised that cold calling was just something I didn't ever want to have to experience ever again. I was phoning businesses, I was trying to convince them into meetings, I was chasing people, I was making sales, we were getting deals. But the long story short is that all that confidence that I'd built through my corporate world, trips and doing well in sales and listing houses, suddenly I went back to my old self. And I was suddenly like this not confident guy. I was like, you know, I thought I was a really good salesperson, but what I actually came to realise is that what was great about the industry that I was in is we were given people that said we want to list our house on the market. Where I was brilliant was going into their house as a warm client and just building a relationship with them. And what I did as an estate agent is a lot of what I teach about online marketing, is I was just the most straight shooting estate agent. I'd always give them the right price of what the house was worth. I didn't overvalue. I didn't mess around on commissions and fees like playing games or anything like that. I would just hit them straight with what the fees were going to be. And I was just like a real straight shooter. But what I found with this environment is that because it was cold calling and because I hadn't been trained in cold calling, I didn't really realise what I was letting myself in for. So anyway, again, what happened is at that time I'd completely stopped all sort of fitness and everything else. I'd lost a lot of weight. I went back to my boss and I went to 3 days a week. So what I agreed with them, which was brilliant from my boss's perspective, that he was prepared to do that. I mean, I thought he was the best guy in the world, but he agreed for me to go back to work on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and then I was building the business at the weekends and the other 2 days of the week. But within 6 months, I just realised, like, this is not going to change my life. I'm again losing confidence. It's a horrific thing to have to do. So what actually happened, and this is where I want hopefully many of you to relate, because I don't think, is there anyone here that does love cold calling or chasing or anything like that? Okay, good, I'm in the right room then. So what actually happened is that I thought, do you know what, I need to find a way of building a business. This was like going back part-time, hating going back to the job. In fact, it was even harder working part-time because I was earning half the money, but I still felt, and if anyone's ever worked part-time, I still felt like I might as well have been working full-time. Because by the time I'd come home on a Monday evening, suddenly Tuesday was around the corner, hardly got anything done in my business, then it was Wednesday. So it was kind of like I've got half the money, so I was even more stressed. But what I came away from that franchise experience was like, if I'm going to do business, I just can't do something where I've got to be chasing, cold calling and all the rest of it. And frustrating thing for me, not only did I have to sit on the phone cold calling, there'd be many times I was chasing people for like £20. And I'd be on hold, I'd be put through to the wrong people, people wouldn't call me back, and it was for 20 quid. So a lot of the lessons that I came away with was that I didn't want to cold call, I didn't want to chase people, I certainly didn't want to be chasing people for £20. And you know, I just wanted to find another way. So that is actually what led me to really start finding a better way, and that's how I found internet marketing. And I probably did what everybody in this room has done at some point. I started typing in, make money online, work from home, home business. And then I started to come across all of these sort of casino riches and get rich quick schemes and push button money systems. Long story short, I bought them. I was like, you know, yeah, let's give it a go. And I don't really class this as my internet marketing days, just so you know. I mean, this was just like a naive guy that was just going out there thinking I was going to stumble across some get rich quick scheme. One of the things I do remember is I came across this casino secret system. And basically it was like, yeah, you know, you've got to do, you sign up to these membership sites and roulette sites, and then you do like black, red, and you do all these casino things. And so I put like a couple £100 on my credit card, bought into these casino secrets, started doing really well, and the system was working. And again, I was like thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make all this money pushing buttons and picking black and red and following this system. And lo and behold, like everybody who's ever fallen for those systems, is that they lead you along and it's all technology and it's all very smart, and then you end up losing money and then you try and win it back, and you're into that gambling game. And for me, fortunately, I didn't lose a crazy amount of money. I sort of learnt my lesson very, very quickly. But what that did do is when I started reading about the scam versions of these casino secrets and everything else, I understood that the reason people were doing it is they were making money as affiliates. So what people were doing is they were driving traffic to these casino sites and then receiving a commission for actually sending idiots like me. Well, I thought, do you know what, I'm not going to be one of those people. It crossed my mind, I was like, rather than be the person on the casino, why don't I just send the other people there? And then I kind of thought, actually, you know, not overly ethical, probably not the best way to build a business. So I kind of like came away from that. But that was kind of the journey of how I came across internet marketing and what actually affiliate marketing was. And to be honest, since finding that, the rest is history. Now, I want to share with you a story about a phone call that absolutely changed everything for me. So you can imagine I'm cutting this story quite short, unfortunately. But, you know, really...